But as promised, let's go across to Manisha, who has brought with her all the things with regards to commodities.
Thank you so much for that. I also have a very special guest with me, Mr. Siraj Hussain. He's a former agricultural secretary, also joining us on the phone line. Mr. Hussain, thank you so much for joining us. And, you know, we were talking to IMD earlier in the day, and we do understand that there is 37% of deficiency as far as monsoon goes until time in India, and 37% deficiency also because we'll finally seen some cyclone rainfall coming in, so the number has been lesser there. But look at Maharashtra, and we're looking at nearly 85% of deficiency here. Other states like MP has a 93% deficiency, Telangana 82% deficiency. How are you reading these numbers, and are you concerned? Because it's already almost 20th of June and we are working with big deficiencies in sense of rainfall.
These numbers are quite at odds with the monsoon prediction of IMD. But I think we should have expected that due to the impact of El Nino, the monsoon rains may be deficient. So I think advisories have already gone to farmers in various states to wait for the monsoon rains and not plant their crops, because otherwise they end up losing the money on seeds.
Okay, well, of course, there is a huge deficiency coming in there. Just to reiterate those numbers, and what we spoke to IMD earlier was that Maharashtra clearly has 86% of a deficiency, with MP standing at 93%, Telangana at around 82%. And while, of course, monsoon is expected to progress in the next 2 to 3 days, there is an expectation that the first half of July actually could be on the positive side.
That's correct. You know, Manisha, in fact, a bunch of things are happening with regards to the monsoons, though SkyMet and IMD, both of them believe that maybe it's because of Biparjoy that we're seeing a bit of a delay in the monsoons. The monsoons had come as close to Konkan, and it was after that where we saw the winds, and you know, there was a mild delay. While we try to repatch the connection with Siraj Hussain, your thoughts on whether this could have an impact on the agricultural output, and will that then in turn make things a little more expensive?
Oh, well, absolutely. You know, at this point in time, we are nearly 10 to 15 days later as far as sowing is concerned. And the numbers really could pick up. You know, by the end of June or the first week of July, you could be looking at stronger numbers as compared to previous year. But the fact being that the late sowing will lead to perhaps lower yield and quality, and that clearly is a bigger concern. And then usually El Nino, when it comes in by the month of September, and October is when we see that peak coming in. And that would be the second half of the monsoon, with first half of June already being washed off, in sense that you haven't seen rainfall at all coming in Maharashtra. Mumbai clearly has been dry for the longest time. It has been quite hot here. So that clearly could be a concern. Mr. Hussain, what is your sense? What is your concern? I mean, do you think yield is something that we should be watching out for right now?
Are you asking me, Manisha?
Yes, Mr. Hussain.
Okay. Actually, it is concerning, especially because the IMD had forecast a normal monsoon. But I think the farmers would have realized, would have known by now that due to the impact of El Nino, they cannot expect normal behavior of rainfall. So I think in most of the states, the farmers would not have planted their Kharif crop, and that is why you see a lower number. So they would be waiting for the normal monsoon rains to resume to whatever extent, and then only they will plant their crop. So it is concerning, but not too much, because June does not get too much of rain in most parts of India. If from now onwards the rainfall resumes its normal pattern, we would be rather fine.
Clearly. And Mr. Hussain, because this is lower monsoon that we've seen in Maharashtra, Madhya Maharashtra also hasn't received any rainfall. MP minus 93, UP is not so great as well. So the central India, which is clearly 50 to 70% of the crops sown in Kharif, what crops would you keep an eye on?
Actually, in many regions, there is irrigation available. So those regions will be able to plant their Kharif crop, even if it is a little late. But of course, the monsoon does not reach UP by this time. It will come here. Normally, it reaches here only in July. So in UP, if the rainfall is lower, that is not a real cause of worry. Similarly for Punjab and Haryana, etc.
Okay. When you look at the overall numbers, and I am sure these are still early days to look at these, but rice is down 14%, pulses 57%, oilseed minus 14%. Would you read too much in these numbers, or would you rather take cognizance of them by the first week of July?
The thing is that the farmers who have taken the gamble of sowing their crops, knowing very well that monsoon rains are going to be deficient and monsoon is delayed, they will end up suffering because their seed may not grow, and then they may have to plant it again. So it results in a loss of income for them, and that is how they get more indebted. But otherwise, from the point of view of the overall production of Kharif, even now we can catch up if the monsoon rains resume and if the pattern nears the normal pattern.
Mr. Hussain, just going to the global, a wider, broader outlook into this as well, and we've seen global commodity prices gain up. The grain deal is something that the street is eyeing at. El Nino is another reason here. The soft commodity prices, and the Indian government has been taking a lot of stands, whether it has been about stock limits, announcing your holdings onto the portal, the duty structure as well for the oil seeds being changed. How are you looking at various these measures?
Actually, the inflation management of the government has been quite good. And I wrote a piece in Money Control the other day in which I said that many a times the ban or restriction on export and lowering of import duty reduces the domestic prices, reduces the inflationary trend in the economy, but it also harms the farmers, because then many a times, as we are watching in case of chana and mustard, the prices rule below MSP. So ideally, the government should be protecting the MSP by the duty structure, so that the farmers also realize the fair price and the consumers also do not suffer too much for inflation.
All right, that's important points that you're making with regards to inflation and the kind of impact that rain could have. Manisha, thank you so much for that as well. In fact, the fact that so far there has not been enough rains and the second half could be impacted by El Nino may cast some concerns on consumption as well, which is why we're seeing some impact on rural-focused consumer companies as well. Colgate, for instance, has moved to the low point of trade. Nestle, which has more of an urban focus too, is currently seeing some profit taking at the low point of trade. In fact, the FMCG index itself should come up for you on the screen, and it'll tell you that there is some bit of concerns with regards to demand. The FMCG index at the low point. With that, we're out of time on this edition of Halftime Report. Business Lunch comes up right up ahead.